and welcome to my new drying space. If you have got a garden with flowers and you are interested in drying them, then I've found that my garage, which is just like a shed, so it's nothing insulated, it's nothing brick built, it's just basically the wooden slats that you'll normally find in a shed. And it seems to warm up quickly and retain that heat quickly, good enough to dry the flowers. I've got a brick barn, which is only a single brick, but it's generally quite cool in there, which is quite pleasant to work in. This area is not pleasant to work in, I can assure you, once there's a bit of sunshine. But it doesn't take much sunshine to heat up, which is great for drying flowers, but not so great for comfort when you're trying to hang the flowers. But the barn that I have been using for the last 2 years was okay in the middle of summer when it's nice and warm, but on the edges, then it took longer to dry, and actually even during the middle of the summer, it takes longer to dry the flowers than in here. And the edges were prone to the flowers taking too long, that they would go mouldy rather than drying. So this year, I don't know why I started drying in here. I think just because it was easier for height. I can easily hang things. And it's worked out really quite well. So I would very much recommend, for all you need is some sort of shed, and it will get you through the summer with drying flowers. But what I thought I would do in this video is actually show you how different flowers dry or look like as they're drying. I'm doing this because one flower that I started drying the other day is remarkably different, and I was quite surprised. So let's start with a rambling rose that I have. So it's quite a brash pink colour. So pleasant. It's not that good for cutting because there's so many thorns in it. But it's quite a good colour. Compare that to how it dries. So the two together, it dries much darker. Now, I don't know whether that's because these were in bud, so they have dried. These were in bud when I started drying them, so they're darker. Let me just see if there's anything else. This is another version of it. So that was maybe more open, similar to this. But they are generally darker. It could be just the rose variety, I don't know, but they are drying like that, which is interesting. Perfectly pretty though. So my wonderful GM, which bright orange that has been flowering for months already, this, where have I put it? Dries like this. So it becomes again darker, similar to the rose. It's not that significant a head, but actually when you're working with smaller wreaths or arrangements, it's really quite a nice detail, in the same way that this is a lovely detail to add in to a bouquet for airiness and a pop of colour. This is a similar thing, and it's got a much more deeper, so it adds texture to anything that you're doing. So another one I would recommend. Again, it probably is based on the varieties, but I can only talk about what I've got. Another rose, Queen of Sweden, smells divine, pretty thornless, so good for flower arranging, good for picking. It seems to flower throughout the whole of the summer, so it is really, really good rose to have. And this dries like this. So it's much more creamy. Again, if you look at the bud that's there, then it is pink, and that's the only way I know that this is from the same rose, because all of the roses tend to dry in here a bit neutral. So a lot of the colours diminish on a rose, but the yellow rose, again, it's got a bit of yellow, but it's dried fairly neutral. And again, this is another yellow rose that I have that is drying fairly neutral. Now there are differences in them all. They are all lovely vintage colours, so all looking wonderful, but certainly a lot more subtle than anything that you pick. Moving on to Achillea. Now this is a bright pink, I would say. And what has surprised me is that it has dried like this. So the colours, it's kept a colour, and I have found previously the Achillea just look pretty dirty. It's a dirty white, whatever colour I seem to pick. Now that could have been because it took too long to dry in the barn. So this is, because it's quicker, I think we might be retaining the colour better. But that has become that. Not what I was expecting. It is what it is though. What else have we got? Calendula. Now I have got various tones, so this is where we are at. They haven't been drying very long, so they haven't really been fully dried yet, but they are pretty much similar to what they are when they were put in. They have, however, because I'm hanging them upside down, the flowers have all gone towards gravity, and they're all clumped up, so they're not such a lovely daisy flower. I could dry them on a piece, so slot them through some chicken wire and have them stationary like that. And I might try that with a few, but I just don't have the space to do that just at the moment. And actually, I don't mind them like that. If they're going to be like that, then I don't know whether I've got as much use of them as a big plant like that, but that is more useful for me. So that can stay. I may as well show you the Achillea mollis because I keep banging my head on it. So this is the starting point. Lovely lime green. The oldest piece of dried Achillea mollis is this one. So the difference goes more mustardy, browner. So need to be aware of that. This is probably pretty much dry, I would say. It's pretty good. The leaves are certainly dry, which is a good indicator. So that's pretty much where we'll end up. One flower I wasn't sure would dry is some phlox. This is perennial phlox. Smells glorious. Quite a harsh pink, so difficult to use in a lot of cut flower arrangements. So I thought, oh, I'll see what they're like when they're dried. And I actually had to hunt around because I didn't know where it had gone. And this is the dried version. I was shocked. So it seems like I'm getting a lot of purples in my dried flowers this year, much more than I had previously. It seems to be drying okay. It's not quite dry, so there's still a little bit of life still in there. But I was really shocked that it came out that colour. Who knows what it'll be like when it's finished? We shall see. But I thought it would be pink. I think the only other thing I've got in here that I could show you an example of is some grasses. So this is a grass, no idea what it is. It's growing in my bed where the raspberries were. So it's self-sown, no idea what it is, but it looks kind of nice. And this is what it has turned into, being hung upside down. I am going to try and dry it standing up so you've got that more airy feel than these rods going upwards. So we'll see what the difference is. Still, I don't mind them, but I do quite like it like that. That would be better in an arrangement than that, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to try and dry these just sitting in little jars so that they dry downwards. And let me just, I haven't got the fresh flower version, but this is statis drying, and I can put a picture up of what it was like before. They do not change hardly at all. So that is statis apricot, and these are the pastels. So actually the pastels, which are more bluey and pinky, get a bit deeper, and this seems to take on a more vintage tone. I must admit, I think I prefer this compared to this, but both don't change significantly during the drying process. And the only other thing that's worth showing, this is feverfew. So it's a very daisy-like flower. Flowers all over my garden actually. This is, yeah, pretty dry actually. But it's lovely little clusters that are quite fresh looking, which is helpful in dry flowers. We don't want everything looking dead, so it's quite fresh looking and works well. This is another type of grass, which is either squirrel tail or foxtail, I don't know which. And this is what it's dried like. It has expanded in the drying process and become really fluffy and kind of crazy, and I kind of like it. So I wasn't overly impressed, although it looks like I need to be very careful with it. It's coming apart. I wasn't sure that whether I liked it or not when I picked it initially, but it looks great now. I think that is it for now. So I have some more that some fresh that I'm gonna add to my collection, but that's pretty much just a brief comparison of some fresh and dried flowers, so you can see the difference between them. This year I am trying anything and everything and just experimenting to see what dries and what works and what doesn't. Some have been surprises and some disappointments. I've just seen something. This is a lupin. Beautiful fresh. I'm not sure what I can do with that. Colour has pretty much gone. It would have been a pink, quite a deep pink, and it's become very insipid. I mean, it can blend in with vintage tones. It might well work in a bouquet, but it's not wowing me. And that's pretty much it. So, if you haven't tried drying your flowers, give it a go. It's quite fun. It takes a bit of time, but you do get the unexpected, and you get flowers that you'll be able to enjoy in the winter. So, give it a go. Until next time, happy gardening.